Welcome, everyone, to this live stream, this new format called the Observable Live Coding. So it's going to be more focused on technical aspects. In fact, I decided recently to uh, get remove the interviews from the traditional episode that I release and create a live stream instead. So, which means I can ask my questions to the guests, and of course, if you have any questions, you can also ask the questions directly during this live stream. So today, in fact, to be completely honest, in 30 minutes from now, the episode dedicated to Kuma will be out there and released. So, which means today I want to talk about Kuma and the best way of getting more informations and more details about the Kuma's features, the Kuma's the first few roadmap or solution that will be out there in the next few months, or the recent news about Kuma, is to basically invite Viktor Gamov from Kong. So let me bring Viktor on stage. Hi, Viktor. How
Hey,
are
hey,
you?
hey. How's it going?
I'm very good. Very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing just fine. Thanks so much for having me. We were tackling some of the difficulties of finding the right time to talk, the time zones and travel schedules, but I'm extremely happy that we were able to sort this out. And thanks for having me. It's
I'm more than
exciting.
welcome. I'm very like I explained. So this is going to be more focused on the interview and get more details about Kuma. I will have, of course, a dedicated episode releasing in a few minutes about Kuma, and I think the best, like I said, I want to have extra information, extra details that we can share with our community about Kuma and what he's able to do. Before we start, maybe Victoria, even if you're a well-known name in the industry, could you briefly introduce yourself to the attendees here?
Yeah, of course. Welcome, everybody. My name is Viktor Gamov, and I work as a principal developer advocate at Kong, hence the gorilla sitting here with me on the live streams. Kong is the software company. We build software tools, primarily focusing on API management, development, API testing, all things around APIs. And we cover multiple aspects within overall pipeline. Like we built the most popular API gateway out there. It's called Gateway. We built through acquisition, and we continue to building the Insomnia, which is development tool for testing your applications, your APIs. And a couple of years back, we start building Service Mesh, and after that, we build it and we donate it to CNCF, and now it is like before Istio joined CNCF, Kuma was the only first and only service mesh that was Envoy based and that was part of CNCF.
Oh, interesting. I was always I thought that Istio was the first one, and then Kong Linkerd arrived later on. So at the end, you were the first one on the market on in the CNCF landscape, at least.
Yeah, that's true, and because Istio were trying to be kind of like system on itself, and they were like thinking about doing their own like foundation and where they move it. But now, like Istio also part of CNCF, and yeah, yes, Linkerd is another service mesh, but it's not based
Envoy.
on Envoy. So
Yeah.
they use a little bit their own technology to do sidecar and proxying and all these kind of things.
But also, I mean, Kong also provides ingress, so you can use basically just Kong as a ingress controller within our cluster. If I don't want to use all the service mesh features, I can also use the Kong ingress, I guess.
Yeah, that's correct. And Kong Egress Controller, that's the name of the thing that will be running in your Kubernetes cluster and will be serving the ingress. Another thing that we built around the ingress and Kong Ingress Controller is support for Gateway API. That is, I'm personally excited. That's going to be GA next week. I think it's already not a secret for anyone. So the Gateway API is kind of like a next generation of ingress that will the feature of the gateway API eventually will supersede feature. They already superseding features of an ingress, um, but yeah. So we also were part of special interest group who developed and ratified this API.
So which means now either, I mean, both the Ingress controller and Kuma can be configured using the Gateway API CRDs. So the HTTP routes, the gRPC routes, the gateway, and so on. I guess that will be fully compatible as well.
Yeah, that's precisely right. We do have a few teams who communicate like internally because we do have a Shane Ott. He's representing Kong in CNCF, and with conversation with other members, including Google, including Isovalent, like the representative from Google and Isovalent. They kind of like a co-leading or co-chairing the spec. But also we do have a few engineers who work at the Kuma, and they also participate in Gateway API discussion. Mike Bamon, he's one of the contributors to Kuma, and he's one of the people who implemented the gateway capabilities. I don't know if you remember, maybe almost a year ago, it was KubeCon in Detroit, and there was an announcement around kind of like build a CNCF based project that will implement a gateway API using Envoy. So, guess what? We did this one in Kuma. So I like to talk when the people talking about like different gateways, and they're saying, "Oh, like you have a Con gateway and it's running on Nginx, and Nginx is old for some reason. I don't know. People thinking that old is bad. It's I would say it's mature and still running strong, but not many people actually know that today at Kong we actually have two gateways that based on a different technology. There's a Con gateway that based on Nginx, and there's a Kuma gateway that based on Envoy. So we got it covered. So it's not a problem. So if you want to run your service mesh only in gateway mode, you still can do this, and you don't need to have a big brother from perspective of features, not from perspective of overhead. Do we have access to chat? Maybe we will, if we can see some of
Uh,
the um, some of the conversations.
so at the moment, yeah. So, but I didn't remind it. So, if anyone is connecting at the moment, we are streaming from different platform: YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and LinkedIn, and I think Twitter as well. And so, if you have any questions, just drop your questions. We can also. Also, of course, I have questions from my end. But if you have also your questions, don't forget to drop your questions. All right. So before we get some questions from the attendees, maybe are there any announcement or any news specifically to Kuma? Because I've played around with the CNCF, the open source version of Kuma, and probably there is some few news or anything that is related to Kuma itself, or Kong providing some extra support for Kuma. Do you have anything to share?
One of the exciting things that we recently announced, and it's going right now in a public beta. I need to check if it's kind of like publicly available, but it definitely will be available by the time of next week at the KubeCon. Um, as I mentioned, we built Kuma, donated the Kuma to CNCF, but also we start building some solution based on Kuma, and the solution is naturally called Kong Mesh. It will include some of the additional kind of like a day two. Um, the things to help people to run this stuff. For example, container for Windows. That's kind of like a what's we call the enterprise feature, and running this. There's like very I'm not gonna say obscure because some people can get like a very touchy feeling about the running their servers on the Windows. We, hardcore Linux and Unix people still don't consider Windows as a production server, even though we know that there's a bunch of the Windows production servers are running there. Um, but yeah, some people actually running some of their workloads, specifically like a physical hardware or virtual hardware that they run in Azure Cloud, and they wanted to have ability to include those workloads into Service Mesh. So we had to build this as a kind of like as a solution, and we included this in enterprise version. But what what actually excites me personally is that we announced the general or like a public availability of the um, global control plane as a managed service. So if you're running your service mesh and you're managing your control plane globally, one of the big features of Kuma. I don't know if you had a chance to talk about this during your video. I'm excited and looking forward to watch it. Is you can deploy multiple zones, multiple meshes, and you can control those from one place, from one global control plane. Even though we have like a zone control planes across different meshes. In our YouTube channel, there's a video of this. If you're interested in how this works, and we use example of running one piece of workload in. One zone runs in AWS, another one runs in GCP, and we're showing how we can do this, how we can implement multi cloud strategy using service mesh. And now you will be able to have a centralized control plane for your applications. You can join, you can bring your workloads that you kind of like manage yourself, but you still have a centralized control plane. This is exciting thing that allows many operations teams to do more of the interesting things. So we in one of the things that we're planning to do is to do kind of automatic service discovery and publish the service into kind of like a developer portal. So Con Connect is our like API management solution for cloud-based management solution. And so right now we bring in the service mesh side of the business um, into this like managed service as well. There will be some cool stuff. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're going to have a central control plane. So at the moment, Kuma provides like a UI where you can see the actual control plane, how it behaves in the cluster. So if you deploy one control plane in Amazon and then one in GCP, I guess you will have two control planes, and then it means that you have your central control plane is streaming the data or the behavior of each control planes to get the overall view of all the zones and all the services. How does
Yes, that's exactly right. So we do have a like UI that we built for Kuma. So something is going is wrong with my focus. Probably it keep yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
know
so
what.
I'm keeping. I probably should not like move around like too much. Yes. So the idea of Con Connect is to be like a single place where you see everything your services. It started with the if idea of simply manage your gateways, and after that from gateways we can take the services we published in developer portal, provide the management around who can access this, who can see this, document this API and the services, and we're moving the same concepts into world of service mesh as well. So it would be unified place where internal services that managed by mesh and external services that managed by gateway, by Con Gateway, they will be having single place where you can see and manage, and you see everything, and you can control it and do whatever you do with those systems.
Okay. And during the episode that I produced, I covered a couple of features, the policies, and obviously the observability piece because the channel is more or less related, dedicated to
Naturally,
observability.
of course.
So I looked at mesh traces, mesh access logs, and my intention was to utilize your open telemetry support to then send the data back to in my case Dynatrace, so I can share the results of that. But I know that Kuma comes also with a feature where you can say I want to, with Kuma CTL you can say I want to add the observability stack, and I didn't present that so much. So could you maybe walk through what Kuma and what you provide in this observability stack from an end user perspective?
Yes, and surprisingly, not surprisingly, we have a prepared we have some prepared demo for you. um, One of the things that Henrik just mentioned, we do have Kuma control um, Kuma control command line tool, and one of the things that we can do with this is to install different components, and as a kind of like as a one of the ideas behind the Kuma. Like some people asking, like, why you created Kuma? Like, why everyone needs the Kuma and things like that. When the Istio came in, it was extremely powerful, but it came from the company that known for, I don't want to call it like over engineering, but the when you just starting using the Istio, you need to know a lot of things. There you need to understand the CRDs, what each CRD means. So it was like very convoluted. You need to enable a lot of things, and one of the things that was part of their kind of observability, there would be special type of UI. But when we have a conversation with users and the different developers, we actually learned that people are relying on some industry standard tools. Prometheus for collecting metrics, Jaeger, or some other similar tools to collect the traces, Loki for collecting logs. So all those things need to be. Um, Usually, people use those tools instead of like using another extra tool to just do only service mesh observability. So we have ability to install the observability stack and automatically configure it to deal with service mesh, and also providing some of the dashboards that allows people to quickly start looking into the data. So when you run this Kuma control install observability, it will install Grafana, Prometheus, Loki, and Jaeger. So I already ran this. It's already installed in my Kubernetes cluster. So if I go to my observability stack, I can see there's fun stuff is going on. I still need to have a bigger cluster. So my Jaeger, the Jaeger um, pods will not be evicted. Maybe I can run on the bigger. Let's see if we can do this. Like it would be always fun. Resize, if I can do resize, number of nodes, let's do 6. And let's see if we will be able to do this on the fly while talking about this stuff. So one of the things that I mentioned in this in the Grafana dashboard is that we can immediately get thing what we call service map that created dynamically, automatically, based on whatever data comes into the system. So for example, right now I have a demo running. That demo many of you might seen before. It's the Google Cloud online shop demo that is available in Google Cloud repository. Very cool demo if you want to get somehow complex system and play around. This demo was designed to be used with Istio. I just took, their concept and run on Kuma naturally without very much changing any code. So, and idea of this microservice demo that you have different languages that were used to implement this. And one of the things that the Kuma provides is ability to Kuma control plane provides ability to query this. Kuma provides data source, like very similar to. I guess it's a kind of like it has a like similar protocol to to Prometheus to get the access to different data sources. Let me take a look. If I'll take a look on the Kuma data source, it's very much has a Prometheus data source format, and this information that I show you on this UI, if I go to Kuma service, not this one, Kuma mesh, yeah, this one. This service map is actually
So,
generated on the
qu-
fly and available through Prometheus endpoint. Yep.
so the question is your the service map is generated through the traces, or
Yes.
is it with the help of metrics that is
Traces.
exposed through the
Yes.
and traces? Okay.
So there's a couple things that I already have enabled. So that's the Kuma UI. As a matter of fact, if you're running with us right now, if you're live and watching this, you can actually go there and click around and see how this UI it looks like. GUI.conbuilders slash GUI. And one of the things that I have enabled here is that my policy traffic trace policy that basically captures all the traffic and send this into Jaeger collector. And based on this information, service map is generated for this. And I can go explore some other things.
So
Say if I
just
yep, go
before
ahead.
we go to explore, there are predefined dashboard that comes with this observability extension. So you briefly show the Kuma mesh and Kuma services. Um, is those dashboards also available in the Grafana community where they can search for Kuma and then and import back the dashboard, or is
Yes.
it? Yeah, okay, that's wonderful.
Um, if
So
you
if
go,
if I run my own Grafana and Prometheus and Jaeger instance, I can just basically send data back to those components and then import just
yes, 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 yes.
the
So
Grafana dashboards.
when we install, so basically, let's take a look. Um, so basically, when we run this command install observability, it's just includes all Kubernetes, the manifests, and includes all configurations for all the data sources, and also includes configuration which dashboard to install by default. And these dashboards actually, populated from um, from official, how I can see dashboards. Um, if I go dashboards, can I do not the docs, but I'm search dashboards, and I can do Kuma, and all dashboards that I'm showing to you right now. So the Kuma service, Kuma control plane, Kuma mesh. These dashboards, all those dashboards are available, so everyone can install it. Either if they're running Grafana as a managed service, they can do this. We just pre-install them
Okay,
by default.
okay, that's clear. Okay.
Yeah. So if I go to service, I can see, for example, how my front end calls my, I don't know what is it. Let's do checkout, and we see like number of requests within the last 5 minutes. We can see health of the control plane itself. Where is it? Home. Going back to our browser. So it is in fact uh, observable. Uh, so yeah, no pun intended. No, actually, pun intended. So the control plane status also can be monitored, like how control plane communicates to data plane. What's uh, um, the most for example, if you hitting around, there's a bunch of things that are available through either API or available via UI. All these things, collected some metrics. We can see who is calling what and things like that. There's
And
basically, yep.
so if you had let's say if you had to measure the health of a control Kuma control plane, what are the main, I would say, things that people need to pay attention to?
So the usually people asking about the load to, if the number of data planes is exceeding certain number, you want to see how fast the communication between control plane to data plane is happening, how fast control plane parses configuration and pushes this configuration back to data planes and things like that. So we do have this like some of the information available through XDS protocol. It's the protocol
Protocol of
that's
Envoy.
used exactly to communicate and configure Envoy. And we use Envoy when we use their protocol to communicate, but also we build some of the like customized KDS protocols on top of it, so we can have Kuma specific things that run on top. Um, the things around communication, the if what kind of things that available are not available. Sometimes people want to explore this either through UI or through APIs, and those things are usually, if there's something is too many 404s or too many 405s and all those kind of things, that would be uh, so right now you see I have a number of data planes, so it meaning that how many services I'm running, um, and that's kind of like a number that you also want to monitor, see, because it allows you to see um, how many how many instances of your services and data planes are running. Usually, we're running this with where is it? Data plane proxy one per service, but this number also can be different.
And is there like a, for example, let's say the control plane can manage, I don't know, 100, 200 thousands. What is the numbers that people should put as thresholds or an alert if we start to exceed, if the data plane is overgrowing, I would say.
Um, Very good question and very interesting question. So, they not just like appear out of the blue, right? So they run usually next to the service. One of the ways how you can restrict this appearance and the way how it works on Kubernetes is that we use a label called sidecar injection. So whatever you run in particular namespace, every service that will be, every pod that will be started in this particular namespace will have a sidecar. So for people who want to control this and saying that, okay, so there's not all services needs to be run in the service mesh in this namespace, so you can disable this label so it will not automatically inject. But in this case, the data plane needs to appear somehow, so you either manually include this in your manifest for your deployment or your, I don't know, stateful set or whatever, or you do kind of like a patch and change the pod and deployment description to include those. In terms of number, I don't know. It's just really depends. Like I know that I'm running what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11 services. 11 services, so that would be if the number would be more than 20, that I will be asking myself like what is going on there, because someone else might be running. Some of those might also include things like where is it, there should be like the Conf gateway also runs as a part of mesh, so the my mesh allows Conf gateway to configure, to connect to mesh. And the reason why the gateway runs part of the mesh, because my mesh is MTLS enabled. So in order to gateway to access to those services and proxy traffic, the MTLS needs to be configured on gateway side of things. And this is something that the control plane also does. It runs like MTLS server um, and responsible for sharing certificates
The
across the
resources.
nodes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
that's why if we go to Kuma mesh, oh no, sorry, we're gonna go into general Kuma discards, and we go in the Kuma mesh. So that's why the gateway also is observable with us, so we know that traffic goes through gateway, and we know like how many requests
What's
this
going on
this
there?
is handled. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you briefly showed us traffic trace, and so when I built the episode, I saw that there was new CRDs that was introduced in
Yeah.
the latest version. So there is mesh traces, mesh access log. There is mesh traffic permission, mesh. There is plenty of them, in fact. And I was wondering specifically for the metrics at the moment when you deploy. The metrics is configured through the mesh. Which the mesh object is the one that configures the actual mesh. And you by default Prometheus data will be automatically enabled. But I was wondering, because there's a pretty cool feature that I was very surprised to see, is the ability to not only report the metrics from the envoy perspective, but you can also ask the mesh to say, hey, there are some containers in the mesh that expose Prometheus metrics, and then the mesh it will also expose those extra custom metrics in Kuma's control planes metrics. So I thought it was a pretty cool feature, by the way. But are you planning in, I don't know, to transitioning the metrics settings to like a dedicated CRD like mesh metrics let's say between those two services, I want to extend and have more information about the behavior of the envoy, or at the moment it's a global configuration.
So, couple notes about new CRDs. So, another thing that I mentioned briefly in the very beginning of my conversation is that developer experience and um, have a nice, clear understanding what is going on to the system was in the essence of Kuma, and that's the reason why we start in a 2.2, I guess. We start introducing with the release of Kuma 2.x, we start introducing these new CRDs. We it's by I, underneath is going to be talking to the same API. We just want to expose like more concise and more clear the way how the services will be configured, and specifically selector part, because in some policies you need to pay attention about um, say for example, I'll give you say like fault injection. You need to make sure that this is policy um, applicable to what's like, is it like inward or downward, the outward, the policy, so meaning that what kind of services will affect when you configure this. For example, you need to be pay attention about how the selectors work and things like that. With the new version, we actually try to standardize, say, like mesh fault injection, and we clearly showing the metrics in terms of how it works, so we can know what is important, what is there, so that we really change the engine, how the matching rules start working, and that's why these new CRDs will supersede eventually, and we will deprecate all the policies going forward. For now, the only thing that we recommend is not mix and match, because otherwise the engine might introduce some of the not clear the priorities about how certain selectors will be applied when you're starting. If you're starting over um, with from scratch, I would say try to use this new the mesh,
CRDs, yeah.
yeah, mesh star CRDs, mesh wildcard CRDs. If you're migrating from the system, try to make sure that you don't have a competing, for example, you're not using um, mesh fault injection and you're not using fault injection the
On the same
policies,
time.
because otherwise they might be competing in terms of like how these things will be prioritized, and you can get into weird situation that okay, I'm applying this rule and it's not really working. Always rule of thumb, whenever you're applying the policy inside this Kuma UI, which is also kind of available for everyone, you have ability, say, let's take a look on the let's circuit breaker, and we can always go to see affected data plane proxies, meaning that we see what kind of services are uh, affected by this policy, and this policy is applied. So you can see like whatever service is applied. If I go say, let me see if I have a more granular policies enabled already.
Yeah. So
Let's actually try to add something. I can do control apply. So let's put the rate limiting policy, and I have a rate limiting policy that will. So, for example, for every service that will go into the currency service, I will have a rate limiting limit to 5 requests per 10 seconds. And now I have this affected data plane proxy. I know that the currency service inbound traffic will be affected. So that's kind of like thing that I was talking about. Kind of like this is like destination. So that's why it will apply rate limiting only for the service that is in the destination, not the source, because rate limiting needs to be applied on destination side of things. And we see that this data plane proxy only affected, even though we have a source as a wildcard.
yeah,
Does it make sense?
yeah, make complete sense. And yeah, because I played around with the Kuma's control plane UI. I thought it was fantastic, to be honest. Thing that, for example, Istio not necessarily provides out of the box. And when you're configuring specifically policies, sometimes you can make some mistakes, and having the options to look at which policies and which the data plane has been affected by that policies, I thought that was really, really great and very helpful to properly configure the right policy. So that I thought it was a really smart thing. One thing
Yep.
that I noticed when using Kuma. So Kuma has specific support for specific protocols, so TCP, HTTP, HTTP2, gRPC, Kafka, and so on. And depending on how how the Kuma identify the protocol for a given data plane, there are obviously different type of details that you will get based on the protocol. So everything that is TCP related, of course, you will have some detail, but less, of course, expected than compared to what you can get with HTTP. The access log in HTTP is richer, and also uh, in the trace perspective, you get at spans from an ingress egress every time you make a bound into a proxy. And when I deployed, so in my case, I didn't use the Hipster Shop, but I used the Open Telemetry Demo application that is a bit similar to the Hipster Shop. Um, Initially, I didn't pay attention to the protocol that Kuma detected, and it was basically all my gRPC services were configured as TCP. And then I was taking time to say, why do I don't get any traces? Where do I get those access log in TCP? Where it's gRPC? And then suddenly I understood that the protocol the protocol defined by Akuma is very important. So that's why where I modified my deployments by adding on the service level of the community services definitions to add the right annotations to help Kuma to say, hey, this is a gRPC or this is HTTP or this is whatever. And that changed completely the behavior of Kuma. So do you have any recommendation from your end? Do you recommend the users to go through individual deployments and precise that this is a gRPC or this is a Kafka or this is HTTP2, so then Kuma will be more efficient with their applications.
Uh, a rule of thumb: it's always good to have this type of the narrow angle, but in more releases that is coming, I start using Kuma since like a 1.1 or something. um, Kuma actually becomes a more intelligent. Yep, becomes more intelligent. Looks like it's pick up the the face of the Rocky from my poster. Um, and I need to kind of like disable this on the camera so it will use on the center screen. Stop it! Stop doing this. Yes, yeah. See. I told you that Rocky is the thing that they try to pick up. So, uh, short answer is yes, it's a good idea, but it's absolutely not necessarily. Kumu actually does a very good job to pick up some of the things. So, if I will show you, for example, if I go into um, show the definition for those things inside the inside this demo. Just give me a second. So microservices demo. This is actually pieces that come from the Google. So it's just like same repository that I cloned inside. Has some manifest. And in the past, if I were to look at the service, I would need to do this manually. I probably still have some sort of I still have a patch that goes through the services and each and every service that is available there, and I enable um, the where is it like it used to be annotations that I need to put to every service to annotate. Um, and in this case, Kuma will pick up and say, okay, so on this port is actually running gRPC. But we actually got rid of this, and now Kuma does more intelligent discovery based on
The
just
service
whatever
definition.
you mentioned in your target port and app port. So basically, it uses the app port section of the port spec in the service to figure out what are you talking about. So, for example, there's a payment service. So if you have an app protocol, not port, app protocol. I'm looking to app protocol and saying app port. So inside the port, in your service definition, if you have an app protocol, Kuma will be able to pick up this, and in this
Use
case, it
it.
will be able to configure. Otherwise, you need to put the annotation saying that the what kind of protocol to run if your service, because
I
this is also becoming kind of like the mandatory, well, not the mandatory kind of. You still deploy the service without it, but this additional like app protocol thing would be really useful for people to for services to discover inside the application.
yeah. So in my case, oh, this is weird. That we are the
Yay! Inside the
oh. So in my case, what I did, so in this open telemetry demo is that I added. So initially I didn't have the app protocol, so I had to add it.
can you make your screen bigger a little bit,
Uh,
like or at least font bigger?
that's don't. Let me take zoom.
So if you are using the one of the JetBrains ID, there's a thing called Zoom ID. By default, I think it's Option Command Plus, and after that you can zoom everything. You went Windows, so I don't know what's the
No, I need to search for
Control
zoom.
Option Plus, or do Shift and do a zoom. Click Shift. Shift.
Oh
Anyway,
shit.
yeah. So
Anyway,
Shift usually brings this kind of like search everywhere, the panel, and you can just like type whatever you want to do.
let me search for zoom in the Windows. I know that there's a Zoom app. Um, shit.
So there's a on the top left you have a like icon of the magnifying glass or like a search glass on the
Yeah.
left side. No. Inside the ID. Inside the ID.
IntelliJ, you say.
Yeah. So you go to sorry, left, right top thing, and there's a the no the next one. The looks like a magnifying glass.
Oh, here. Okay.
Yeah. Type zoom here. Yeah, and it will give you zoom ID. Yep, and you can do 150. Yep,
Well, for
perfect.
example. Oh,
Yeah. Zoom ID.
again. Alt Shift Plus.
Okay, Alt Shift Plus.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. So here you can see that in my case, here I didn't have this initially in the deployment
Yeah.
of the application. So I had to add the app protocol and also just in case I added the
Yeah.
Kuma.io
It's
slash
not
protocol.
if you're running like a latest and greatest version of Kuma, it's not necessary. You can remove those annotations.
Okay, so that's why I just added this will be the main
Yep.
thing that should be done.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
good
Kuma
to know.
will infer configuration for data plane proxy using this app protocol.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. And by the way, I can just share. So if people will watch the episode into once it's officially released. So in the actual tutorial is deploying Kuma, and I try to implement few aspects like the timeout request. I mean request timeout, traffic split, not traffic split, rate limit, and traffic permission, mesh fold injections. So I did some configuration, and then I try to at least help users to identify if I have been rate limited or I reached out request timeout. So again, I made those query into Dynatrace. So here's, for example, it's an example of a local rate limited. So it's a way of keeping track if I have any requests from a given services that has been timeout in this particular case. Here I'm using logs, but I also provided the metrics that people can use if they want to detect request time or any traffic that has been timeout by one of the policies applied in the mesh.
Yep.
I'm looking at just the time. I think you have a hard stop in a few minutes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
S-
Unfortunately, like I said, the timing is time is essence, and yeah, we do have some other things. Plus, since we're doing this from the home studios, it's always like a family obligations also come into play.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so I will first of all I will like thank you, Victor, for taking the time and giving us more explanations on Kuma. I think that was very useful. I like I said in the episode, I really like the fact that Kuma is very easy to get started in the mesh world because you have a very simple, I would say, CRDs that we can configure to create a verse policy. So I think it's a smart way uh, having a service mesh that is not so complex because configuring Envoy is could be just a mess, to be honest. And here I
Yeah,
really like the fact that it was
and
very simple.
essentially you need to technically two commands to get started. You can state install control plane, one command, or after that you will be able to even install demo. And demo will deploy the demo application that will be configured, and after that you will be able to install. Since we at the Observability podcast or Observability stream, you can install your observability stack, and you should be able to get this working immediately. So we were trying to really optimize user experience for startup time. um, I also build a kind of like a very opinionated workshop for Kuma to get started, and it also includes some of the demos. Usually, I use this workshop to show some of the Java folks about the teach JVM folks about service mesh, but also there's like some cool explainers that will walk you through the kind of very opinionated way for me, in my opinion, to get started. So if you want to have these type of things apart from the demo that you saw today and you saw that Henrik did, check this out. It's pretty fun. There's some you installing whatever you need to have you how you setting things up. It has some scripts that allows you to run this on the minikube, or you can run this on the real. And also it explains how to run with observability stack and whatever metrics you will get in this workshop. So yeah, that's a pretty cool bit that I recommend everyone to check it out. Again, I use this to teach Java folks to service mesh, but absolutely, your knowledge of Java is absolutely unnecessary. Everything is in containers, and I don't even like put much of the attention onto Java spec, except there's special folder for Java folks.
Could you? I guess you would be at KubeCon next week.
Yes, sir, I will be. Yes, and I'm excited. I will be at the Kong booth all the time. There would be some conversations that will be happening here and there, but most of the time, if folks you will be there and you want to learn about Kuma, Kong Gateway, Kong Ingress Control, or Gateway API, drop by, um, and I will show you some cool demos that I have.
All right, cool. So I will definitely come to your booth and say hi, and maybe do a short interview if you have time for that.
Yes, yes, of course. Let's do it.
All right, all right. So thanks, Victor, for your time, and I hope you to see you next week then. So safe travel to Chicago, and yeah, thanks for your
Yeah,
time. And
bring a warm jacket. So I heard it was
yeah,
snow this week.
I said it's almost one Celsius degrees. So yeah,
Yeah,
for sure, I will take a
not
jacket.
yeah, not the hot weather definitely. But hey, it's gonna be exciting.
All right, so let me conclude this live stream and finalize. So thanks for your time, and see you soon then.
Thank you so much. My name is Viktor Gamov, and as always, have a nice day.
All right, so that is ending the first Observable Live Coding, and I just prepared a small QR code. So if you want to jump into the Kuma tutorial that I prepared, it will be in any way in the episode that has been released. So thanks for taking the time here, spending 1 hour with us. I hope that you learned information about Kuma, and if you had any more questions about Kuma, just drop them in the video that will be available on YouTube. So I can reach out back to Victor and ask those questions directly. All right, so thanks everyone, and let me for taking the time to spend 1 hour with us, or less, a bit less. So see you soon for another observable live coding.